Welcome to Trauma, Healing, and the Child's Mind series. This journey was born from a powerful personal revelation, a mother's call to transform pain into purpose. We sincerely believe that even from the deepest wounds, wisdom can emerge. Through focused learning and nurturing, our expert team brings unique insights and powerful tools to help you shift your perspective and truly begin your healing journey. At Driven Livin', we're here to support you with resources like the Drive Collective, self-improvement courses, guided meditations, and journaling. If any part of this conversation triggers you, please find immediate professional resources listed in our description. This is our shared path to evolving our paths into wisdom together. I hope you enjoy the series. Facing the Flames, Healing Generational Trauma with Teevee Aguirre. Generational trauma is like a fire in the woods, taking down everything in its path until one day, one person from a generation has the courage to turn and face the flames. Today, human behavior specialist Teevee Aguirre joins us to explore how we can become that person who stops the destructive cycle of generational trauma. Teevee will guide us through understanding the roots of ancestral trauma, recognizing the signs, extinguishing the flames, and creating a legacy of healing. Join us in exploring the echoes of the past, facing the flames with courage, and creating a brighter future. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show, where you're about to go on a wellness-driven ride. Let me share with you a little bit more about the guest that we have with us today. Teevee Aguirre is an artist, writer, and podcast host who explores the depths of human experience through his creative work. His journey began with a profound realization of the unseen forces shaping his life, leading him to explore the hidden influences of ancestral trauma. Through his podcast, Becoming Better Ancestors, he shines light on inherited patterns, offering insights to break free and create a new legacy. His work is a testament to the courage to face our deepest wounds, and I am so pleased to help welcome to our stage today, Teevee. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I am so excited to have this conversation. What an incredible moment for you to be here with us today to shine your expertise for this incredible series that we have going on the Wellness Driven Life Show. Now, let's start by sharing with our audience a little bit more about yourself so we can get to know you better.
Well, I'm an almost 50-year-old man. I think they call that middle-aged. I'm not sure. But immigrant Mexican. I was born in Mexico, raised to immigrant parents, obviously. Married in my 20s, had children, late 20s, had 2 daughters, and at one point had 2 stepchildren as well. Their mother had 2 children, so I had 4 children that I was a father to. And through the course of that, I learned that I had a lot of stuff that I needed to resolve to become a better parent, because one thing that I had committed as a child was to do better and live a happier life. At a young age, I realized I figured there had to be better than what I was living through. And then when I became a father and had children, it was go time. So I realized I really needed to start improving my way of being. which had led me to begin uprooting a lot of those generational traumas that we talk about, realizing that there was those hidden forces that helped create me, and that they were playing out in my actions, in the way I showed up in the world, and obviously in the way I parented.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have really brought us down this path of a lot of change and shifts very early on in your life, when being that young adult and entering into fatherhood so rapidly, in and of itself is a huge change. And also moving countries, which is a lot of transition there as well. So I really like that you bring to the forefront that as a child, you committed to yourself that you wanted to be a better person, a better human. And I noticed on your title, you say human, father, and supermodel. I like that supermodel part. Do you want to explain a little bit about that?
Thank you for that. It's layered. I believe I have this foundational belief that I've come to conclude about becoming a better whatever, fill in the blank, a better partner, a better husband, a better wife, a better child. All of it comes down to becoming a better human. We're all humans. And essentially, if you become a better human, everything else just trickles down from there. You will show up in every other context in life as such. And the role that I'm most proud of serving is that of a father. It is something that can bring tears to my eyes just talking about and thinking about it right now, because I just talked to both of them yesterday. And role model or supermodel, I joke with people about that. And obviously it's written to get some attention, but the thinking behind it is that I am a model. We are all models, role models in people in our lives, whether it be directly or indirectly. We're influencing without even realizing it. And something I learned a long time ago in NLP is that you cannot not influence. I forget who said that, one of the founders of the NLP practitioner stuff.
Well, that's a very great concept to bring here with us today, because you're right. It is that we're influencing continuously, that truly does make the greatest impact when we work on ourselves and be the best version of ourselves. And that just trickles out. And when we talk about generational trauma, explain a little bit of what that means to you and how we do the work now and show up differently and influence those around us. And how does that have anything to do with generational trauma?
Well, we're all raised by our parents, given birth by our parents, raised by our parents, and they are children of their parents. I actually did this. I had a conversation with ChatGPT today, a pretty in-depth one, where I was trying to understand, generationally speaking, my grandfather's mindset, culturally, economically, politically in Mexico. They were born in 1920s, shortly after the Mexican Revolutionary War. My parents, so they're the children of the Revolutionary War in a sense, and then my parents were their children. So understanding that they did things to survive and to parent, and even in their own relationships and the way they managed them, that they believed were the best approaches. A lot of it was physical, it was violent. And I have this belief that I learned in talking to my dad not too long ago, because he's older and disabled. But he was talking about hurting someone and beating someone up because he was he just wasn't feeling good and happy about himself. And I'm thinking to myself, you can't even move. How is this possible? And I realized in that moment that in the old days, and I think it's in every country, including America, because it was rougher times, you would beat your children, you would beat your cattle, you would beat your partner, your wife, you would beat your enemy, you would beat everyone to get what you want. And although that was true and it kind of worked, the truth is that in the long term, those children that were getting beaten and getting forced to comply through physical means or through manipulation and shame, the long-term ramifications of that aren't the best. And it plays out in society and the people that we see wandering around the world and the people that we are. So it became clear to me that I needed to start unraveling that and doing the work.
It is fascinating how when we have a better understanding of something and acknowledge it, have the awareness of that, we can better move forward.
Yes.
And I know it helps for me a lot, and I know it helps for many, many other people, that when we understand the things or why we do and react the way that we do, unbeknownst to us, right? This is very deeply rooted pieces of ourselves that's been encoded within us. And so it's our job to learn how to decode it or change the coding in a better way. So what are some of the ways that you have done just that?
Well, just recognizing things that I personally did not enjoy as a child, things that may have been intentional or unintentional by my parents, and understanding that why I didn't enjoy them, and then realizing that I wanted to change it. So one example is how I raised my children and chose the approach of not beating them to get them to comply. I have this belief that was the old way. That was old technology. You beat them and they comply. And I've convinced myself, I've learned that everything else in the world has been improved. We have better medicine, better food, better this and better that. Why do we not improve that aspect of it? So being that I was a child that was beaten a lot, and I knew that I wanted to do different, so I started to understand why. Once I figured that, I was able to not approach it from an angry perspective, and then start researching and understanding better communication styles, better parenting styles. How do we get a child to comply? Why do we get them to comply? And then teaching them the best way to do it, and how do I undo that? The biggest lesson, going back to what I said earlier about being a better human, is anything and everything that I wished for them to do, I would be doing, because I was a supermodel. If I asked them, if I even remotely thought of asking them to do something, I would always check in with myself. Am I doing it? And in moments when I wasn't doing it, and it was clear, like, oh crap, like, no, don't drink Coke. You're not going to drink sodas. We're going to drink water. Well, what am I drinking? What do we have in the house? So it's really starting to unpack the little things like that and figuring out how I can then show up as that individual, as that better human. So for them, it becomes relatively easy. They're just going to mirror the individual that their parents are. That's what we all did.
Right. And what a wonderful definition of leadership. And that is exactly what we're doing as parents, is we're leading by example. And, for me, Teevee, I don't know about you, how challenging it is to really shift gears when some of that is really ingrained in us, right? The response. But then again, when we see and don't love the experience we have or we had with our parents, we want to change that, right? And so we're very moved and drawn to do things differently. But when we go to wanting to do those things differently, and the challenges within that, and seeing the problems that our own kids face, and that you can't protect them from everything, that what is left to do but to lead by example when you can't control every outcome and situation that they are going to face on their journeys.
Absolutely. And that's hard, because we all, I think, we want to be better parents. We want to raise our children to do well. And you can install the source code, what I call the source code, at a young enough age to where they can be resourceful, committed, driven, staying on task, or all those kinds of things. But there comes a point where, and this happened, I have two older daughters, 22 and 20, where I had to step back, because at that point, now it's essentially always been their life. I'm not their owner. I'm just, I think I saw somewhere, I'm just on borrowed time. I'm just here, the gift of being alongside of them and being able to nurture them as long as I can. But there comes a point in time when the source code has to run, and I tried to install things that could be adaptable, could be improved. The operating system can be improved at any given time. And there were timeless kind of principles, but it's up to them to then live in the world. And I have to step back and trust that they have all the necessary basic tools, I call them cheat codes, that I could give them to be able to then survive. And I literally, it's hard, to your point, because I'm thinking to myself, there's been many instances, and I did a podcast on this, where I literally want to say to them, no, don't do that, do this. But you and I both know that some of the best lessons we've had, unfortunately, were through experience, not through words that our father or mother may have spewed at us.
1000%. And I don't even remember what my mom told me what to do, what not to do. I was having a conversation with my mom, and she was like, yeah, I told you not to do this and not to do that. And I'm like, really don't remember that.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
In one ear and out the other. And so, however, as an adult, as I move through life and I experience my own dis-ease, my own traumas, my own experiences, however challenging or difficult that I perceive them to be, I do reflect on the people that have inspired me or been there along the journey. Like, what did they do? How did they respond? Look at how they were in those situations. They were so brave, or they moved through it this way. And so I think that, again, going back to this, we lead by example. And if it doesn't show right now, and if you don't feel like you're making an impact now, it doesn't mean that it won't come through and shine light eventually down the road.
If I may, there's many things that I taught the girls intentionally. Like, I had conversations about a lot of things. I had them every other weekend on average. So I essentially had 15 summers, 1 month every summer. So my time with them was really important. Pardon me, where was I going with this? So they're older now. And there's some things that are clear that they got from me. They don't like mayo. They prefer mustard. The language that they use, and it's beautiful. But there's some things that I wasn't sure that they got. And now that they're older, I hear them talking. In some instances, they have literally said to me, oh yeah, you said this story this one time, or you used to do this one thing. And I always thought that was cool, and I couldn't wait to do it for myself. I'm like, oh crap, why didn't you tell me? Or, and this is the craziest one, is when they literally repeat lessons or things that I did do or say, some of them unconsciously, because they're always watching. And they are repeating them verbatim as if it's 100% their thoughts. And I had to actually refrain from saying, no, baby, I taught you. Because then it's my ego trying to, no. And it's happened numerous times to where it's a beautiful thing, and I want to say something because my ego does want the credit. But I want this their life, and I want them to believe it, because if they believe that it's them, that they thought of this beautiful idea about, how to be in a relationship, how to argue, those kinds of things, then it's good for them. Who am I to say that it isn't their idea?
Yeah. I really enjoy that you're bringing in that ego piece to us. And we're going to move into our commercial, but when we get back, let's stretch that idea a little further. Stay tuned. Are you ready to take control of your ride to wellness? Rev up with Driven Living. Visit www.drivenliving.com and buckle up for a journey. Get exclusive access to our Wellness Driven Life Show guest portal, where you can dive deep into the minds of our esteemed guests. Sign up for our newsletter and get insider scoops on these distinguished personalities. It's like having a backstage pass to their life-changing wisdom. But that's not all. You'll also receive a free hug. You heard me right, a free hug. An enlightening ebook from the Driven Living team. Discover the science-backed benefits of hugging yourself. It's a fill-up for your wellness tank. Because at Driven Living, we believe in fueling your journey to wellness, both physically and psychologically. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.drivenliving.com today. Welcome back, everyone. Here with Teevee Aguirre, and we are having an incredible conversation about generational trauma, how to heal from that, facing the flames. And we just ended the last section with speaking about that egotistical side of us that really wants to shine light. And you and I both have come from divorces, so past relationships that, weren't the best. That's why they're past relationships. And being a parent in the middle of that. So sharing children with people that you may or may not agree with and what that's like as a parent, because they're being influenced, as we speak about influenced, by so many people. I mean, we are all influenced by societal standards, by our peers, the schools, the teachers, the workers, everybody in our family. And not only that, but going deeper, as we've mentioned, the generational aspects of ourselves, those encoded pieces of who we are historically, our ancestors. And so, but when we bring in the ego to all of that, I feel that that is one of those parts of really being brave to face the flames, because you have to manage those emotions and put that ego in check, right? If you want to be the best influence. So do you want to share a little bit more insight on that, Teevee?
Everything we do is essentially in defense of the ego. And the ego, I've tried to look it up to really get an understanding for it. It's just how we identify ourselves, how we are. I am Mexican. I am a man. I am strong. I am all these things. And the ego is meant to protect you. And in and of itself, I think, is not a bad thing. But most of the conflicts that we have internally, externally, with our partners, our children, the world, politically, revolves around the ego, protecting it, or protecting against other people. And in instances when the ego gets too big, it wants to really stamp out other ideas or thoughts. That's when it can be damaging. That's when we start to step into places. As an example, the ego of a father says a really bold, great, crazy, let's say my father, his ego was so strong that he could not withstand the idea of his children slightly questioning him. Those are instances, because he's the father, and you hear this in a lot of parents and of homes, is I am your father, I am your mother, I pay the bills, you can't question me. But mom, the cops are at the door. Like, we can't do anything about this. Your ego. It's a crazy example, but the ego doesn't care. The reality doesn't care about your ego. And it's those instances. And for me, going back to generational trauma and tying it together, is recognizing when it's my ego, and especially in divorce, that is trying to take a stand, and telling it, checking it, is like, my ego says that I should argue with my ex-wife and to give her a piece of my mind so she knows who I am. But the loving part of myself that recognizes that actually doesn't serve anyone, and especially my daughters, I need to tamper that down. And that is hard. And that's, I think, something that's really difficult in divorces. What's the best play in the long term? In the short term, I'll get at her and I'll let her know what I think. But long term, I wouldn't be able to face my daughters in clear conscience and know that I actually try to do what's right by them.
Something that I really love that you bring to the forefront is identity. You know, that's what ego is constantly striving to protect, is that what we feel we identify as. And we don't realize or come to the conclusion as adults that our identity is based on all of the experiences and all of the influences that have gathered themselves within our conscious, unconscious parts of ourselves. And that is why we respond the way that we do. And we become so defensive and so protective of that. And most of the time we haven't a clue as to why. You know, I remember that when I went through my last really major trauma, or what I perceived to be a major trauma in my life, I went to a networking event, and everybody was talking about their word for the year, because it was towards the new year. And I said my word was identity. And people kind of looked at me sideways like, what?
I like it.
They didn't really have an understanding of it. And my word was identity, because I felt that I was quite literally going through an identity crisis, because that's what happens when trauma happens. Our world is shaken up, and that struggle and that fight to defend and protect who we think we are is being shattered. And so it's a very uncomforting position to be in, right? It
Yes.
doesn't feel good, and we go a little crazy.
We do. And and then in that craziness, we tend to just retaliate. Improv has taught me, life has taught me that a lot of the problems, improv teaches you that your first thought is trash. The core founder of the improv, and I use this because I think it's so useful in every aspect of life. I think it's a universal principle. Unfortunately, when our ego is damaged or is being attacked, and then our sense of self, our identity, how we see ourselves in the world is attacked, well, our first thought is going to be instinctive and reactionary, and is going to be venomous, perhaps, because we want to make sure that the other person knows not to cross boundaries. But what life eventually teaches you, if you're patient enough, is that your first thought is trash. It's instinctive. It's probably not necessary. It's trying to protect you. And you got to get to your third thought. And in improv, they say, get to the third thought as quickly as possible. And that's where the magic actually happens, where you can actually react by placing the ego aside, give some more thought to be able to say something that you may able. I tend to not even get in many arguments. When I do, I'm able to resolve them quickly, especially with my partner, because I'm able to move the ego to the side long enough, and she's able to do the same. We practice this to be able to have a real conversation. The ego is just always trying to protect us. It's like, no, you can't say that about me.
What a beautiful way to explain that, the third thought. And yes, it gives you time. Instead of reacting like that, you are actually choosing to respond in a more mindful, thought out manner. And I had to learn that really early on, very quickly with law enforcement. I wasn't in the position to just react the way that I would want to. And you see a lot of things that you certainly want to react to, because you just want to put a stop to it. But there's boundaries and where things need to be thought out, and things take time. And there is a process of things in order for them to come out to the best result. And so I like that you and your wife take the time, and it's a beautiful thing too. When we get older and we learn so many life lessons, our relationships just seem to blossom in such a better way, right?
Yes.
We finally find partners because we've done the work and we have faced those fires. What were some of the most difficult fires that you faced when discussing generational trauma, Teevee?
Trying to forgive my parents, forgive my ancestors. I heard a quote a long time ago that I think is appropriate, is that if you knew better, you'd do better. And they didn't know any better. They knew what they knew that was handed down to them, and so forth and so on. And keeping in mind that they did what they could. They got us here. So as immigrants, they got us here. They gave us an opportunity. It was up to us at that point to then pick up the ball and carry it forward. So that was the most difficult thing, forgiving what was done to me, the generational trauma. Then the second part to that I just realized in the last month or two is then forgiving myself. Because I've hurt people through the learnings, because I didn't. I'm not going to pretend that I am this perfect angel that just. I think I was a wholesome, naive human, but in that the naivety, in that naiveness, I don't even know what the word is. I'm sorry. I did hurt people. I hurt my stepchildren. I did use corporal punishment. I met with them a couple of weeks ago because I wanted to apologize, and they hung out with me. So recognizing that as I was learning, I was also making mistakes, and some of them of which I am incredibly ashamed of, and taking a beat and recognizing that I too deserve grace from myself. So I forgive myself. And that was probably the absolute hardest, because I can sit here and place blame and then, eventually forgive. And I love my parents. It's a challenging relationship still, but I forgive them and I love them because they got me here. But the other part is, damn, what did I do? I hurt people. So forgiving myself, grace to myself. That was hard.
Oh, that is hard. And I feel that, thank you so much for sharing that first off and being vulnerable and sharing that. It is absolutely probably one of the most difficult things, coming to that self-compassion and self-love and that grace that we need so vitally for ourselves in order to be able to move forward at all is essential. And it is definitely the most difficult thing. And it's something that we need to be reminded of continuously, because as you know, the thoughts in our mind are always going to be surfacing and recirculating to something that's probably not so great and negative until we truly change and put in a ton of work, and then it becomes more automatic. But really, I mean, when you think of childhoods and up to the age 7, where all of this information that we're gathering starts to stick and ingrain itself within us. So yeah, absolutely. And the continuous work of having self-love, compassion, and grace for ourselves, forgiving ourselves, to shine a greater light. That is all part of extinguishing those flames.
And that's why it's hard, because you're turning around. I did the illustration. I think you saw it based on that quote, because I heard a video from the therapist, and I was like, wow. That's why people don't do that work, because it's terrifying. You're not only confronting your own stuff, you're confronting your family and what it means to be a part of the family. The stories that were embedded in what we came up with, and like, how do you face your siblings? How do you face your family? You don't want, I mean, most people, I think, don't want to hurt their parents, but you want to talk about it. So it's absolutely challenging. And in doing the work, a lot of it to me has come down to rewriting, editing, being the editor in your life. I literally feel that, well, I read a book years ago on the science of storytelling that really made me understand this at a deeper level, is that our brains, from the moment we're born, the brain is in the dark closet. It sees nothing and knows nothing other than the information being given to it. So it is perpetually creating stories and meaning all around us. Like, who are these people? What does this mean? And a lot of the trauma that did happen to us, and as bad as it was, the trauma is the story. And the story is painful, but the story was written by a younger version of myself. And it needs to be rewritten from the older perspective. It needs to be edited. And I feel that therapists and psychotherapy, all the practices, they're like helping you be your editor in your life. Like, hey, did you ever possibly think that it could also mean this? Or what do you think your parents were going through when they abandoned you? What do you think they were psychologically, emotionally, and financially going through for them to just leave in that moment? Do you think they were, oh, wow, I didn't think about that, right? So rewriting and taking time to say, hey, that happened. How can I rewrite this story? And it's hard, because as a child, it's part of your source code. Like, how do I rewrite that and truly, accept the changes, accept the updated, rewritten version of it? And that takes time. It takes repetition. It takes, because the story, the movie's going to play in your head, and you need to be able to say, let me edit that. NLP teaches you to slow it down, turn it in black and white, make it small. Like let's just get rid of it, or remove the emotion behind it. And that's the work. It's the repetition, because we didn't get here overnight. No. I forget who says this. We're in the habit of being ourselves. So let's break some of those habits related to back to identity, reimagine and create a new identity that actually is more fulfilling, other than the one that you kind of put together as a child.
Yeah, that sounds like Dr. Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit.
There it is. Yes. I've heard that, and I feel like it's appropriate.
I'm a huge fan of his work. And so I want to break down a couple of things from what I heard you say. You talked about NLP and restructuring things that way, and also with story form and rewriting the script. Do you have some practices that you partake in with physical writing that script, like rewriting the story?
In actual physical writing, yeah, I'll journal. especially as I'm going through something and it's kind of in my face, like, oh crap. For a second, if I can take a moment. A realization I had recently is, and you alluded to this earlier, like virtually every part of ourselves is a part of someone else. We picked up this phrase here. We like hamburgers from here. Our parents, every part of it is elements of other people. We're like a mosaic of all our friends and social circle and religion. We're a mosaic. But in terms of when things come up, like, oh crap, I understand why I do this. I journal, I write, and I start just writing. Tim Ferriss says that writing is like freezing your thoughts. So it forces you to think as you're writing. But it's crazy. You just keep writing, and you keep writing until you actually find your own solution and you start imagining a different perspective. Because actually that's what it involves. They're like, let's take a different perspective. Let's look at it from above, like a bird's eye view in the room. What does that look like? Oh, crap. Mom just came in from a long night of work and dad is pissed because there's no food. And now they're going at it. Oh, I thought mom was just mad at me. So it's like taking that perspective and you write, or better, another one.
It's not about you. Yeah.
You're an afterthought, unfortunately. But another one that I do is actually, is talk to my partner, talk to someone close to me and just start downloading. And as I'm talking, and NLP teaches you this, I actually had this happen in a class, is start talking about a story that's really traumatizing and hard. And this is hard for people because it's like, oh, I don't want to bear witness. I don't want to bear open my life. But as you start talking, you don't even need people to talk. You will hear yourself and you will start editing and thinking to yourself, well, maybe I never considered this thing over here or that thing or this perspective, this idea. So those two practices alone, actually getting it out of your brain, out of your gut and your heart and getting it out into the open, it's hard, but it's incredibly revealing. And NLP teaches you this as well, is that we have all the answers. We're encoded with so much knowledge and information in our DNA. If we just allow ourselves and remember that we have superpowers that we haven't tapped into because we've limited ourselves because of the trauma, became the ceiling, which became the walls. We have so much if we just allow ourselves to share and talk, not be ashamed.
That is so powerful. Sharing your story. Even I have trouble doing that. I like to hide behind my interviews. That's why I interview other people, because it is difficult and part of the reason I don't like to go there, Teevee, is because I don't want to rehash it. I want to focus on the positive. I want to focus on the light. I want to focus on, okay, now what? Instead of rehashing other things. But what I hear you say about this is it continues to shed light on different perspectives, on putting yourself in other people's shoes. I really like that piece that you bring to this.
Thank you. I have these conversations with my partner, especially early on. She was raised in a home where she was really passive, and she was an obedient girl. She did everything she was supposed to, and talking out loud was not necessarily something that was allowed, and neither was it in my family. And when we first got together, she would do a lot of thinking, or we'd maybe get into an argument, and I'm trying to, because the arguments are inevitable. I have this idea, now we both disagree. All right, cool, but I want to resolve it. Like most of my ideas are inconsequential. They're not really important, but let's talk about it. And she wouldn't, and she couldn't. And there came a point where I was like, I can tell that her head is running. I'm like, I need you to think out loud. Let's get it out here. And going back to the trauma, like, it's in here and it's just bouncing. Get it out. I know it's painful to find someone that you trust, or even record yourself, if nothing else, if you really, really, really cannot, and then just get it out of here and dump it. And you'll be amazed with what comes from it. And many times this has happened. She comes to me now, like, I need a dump. I'm like, okay. She starts dumping, and she's like, this has been bothering me. I don't even know what this happened the other day. I don't even know what my problem is right now when I'm so irritable. She starts talking. 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, she says, oh, there it is. And I feel better. I didn't even do anything. I'm just listening.
Yeah. What an incredible example of the healing actually taking place, for our evolution.
Yes.
You and your wife are displaying exactly what it is to face those flames and to heal continuously by getting it out, by communicating with each other. And that's so beautiful. And you had me think and recognize within myself, I tend to do that as well. I like to shut down
She did.
and just exit. I'm like, I'm like, let's create space. But that doesn't always address the issue that you're feeling right now. And I tend to be like, well, it'll go away, or I'll think differently when I've cooled down, right? And where I really have time to look at it in a different respect and light. And I think it drives Manly, my partner, crazy sometimes.
Oh.
And I had a guest give a really cool idea of how to do this when you're in an argument with your partner. You create the space.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one of you goes and sits in the car and the other one is in the house or whatever, right? You create the space, and then you take your phone and you record yourself. You know how we can record a message, a verbal message to people?
Yeah.
So then instead of text, because you can misconstrue text all the time. But if you bring that vocal, that where you hear the emotions, where you hear the expression, and then you ask your partner, don't respond via text, don't respond right away, but respond also with a voice message. So it gives a little more of those healthy boundaries.
Yeah. And
also you're getting out to the communication part where you can come to, okay, now I understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
This is where I'm coming from, etc.
If I may, I agree completely. And for us, it almost seems like I'm making this up, but we have a really good relationship in that we're almost always at zero, neutral, meaning we have no arguments that we have not addressed, any disagreements. Most of the time when we have disagreements, luckily, they're so small. They're like pizza or Chinese, or, you said Chinese, you said whatever. So most of those can be resolved almost in real time. There have been a few where I had to step away. I'm like, and for me, the best strategy has been to just walk. If I take a walk, when I come back, I feel better. I relax and I'm able to share, and we're able to have a conversation. Worst case scenario is I don't want to talk because it's so like heavy. I need time. So I sleep it off. And in the morning we talk. But the rule is, and it's a must, because the tension is something like we have a balance, a debt in the relationship that we need to come back to zero, into neutral. We have to talk about it. And the conversations, whether it be in the real time or later, once we chill, taking a beat, right? Always are like, I don't know, I did overreact. I'm an asshole. Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss. I'm a jerk. And we're able to kind of bring it back. And I think one of the most important things in relationships is and it's hard, I recognize this, and maybe this seems over the top. Don't carry anything to the next day or past 2 days. You have to, because I've been in those relationships where you try to brush it. Like, I'll get over it. I'll be fine. But you're sacrificing a piece of yourself. Your voice is not being heard, or needs aren't being met. And then you stack enough of those over 10, 15, 20 years, the resentment that comes out of it. And you hear this in relationships all the time. You get into an argument, all of a sudden you're pulling things back from like 3 or 4 years ago or last month. I'm like, crap, I thought we settled this. Nothing good is going to happen from that. It's then the relationship is really, 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 really hard. And undoing all that is almost impossible.
It certainly perpetuates, and you're right, it can cause resentment very quickly. And that's the last thing you want in your relationships, where you start to have all these thoughts and feelings and emotions about your partner that could have been addressed early on.
And it's hard because you're like emotionally like charged. And of course, if you're that emotionally charged, you're going to spit venom. As a general practice, what I try to do from when I do get into those arguments, I have this question I like to ask. And it's, what expectation did you have of me? The first time I did that, The first time I did that, she was like in a hissy fit, and I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? She couldn't elaborate. And finally I said, because there's another big thing of mine, it's like life is a perpetual balance of expectation and reality. Reality. We're always upset or happy based on the reality meeting or exceed or not meeting expectations. So in that moment, she's upset with me, and it came to me, I was like, what expectation did you specifically have of me? And then it's so succinct that she had to like respond with why she's upset. And she was like, oh crap. Okay. And she told me, I'm like, oh, I'll take care of that. That's no big deal. Like, let's go. But otherwise we're arguing. And a lot of times if you're just able to narrow it down, what expectation did you have me? Or I had this expectation of you, and you were supposed to be here at 5, it's 6:30, and you didn't let me know, manage expectation, that you were going to be late. So therefore I am furious, right? And there's example, you can fill in the blank here across the board. Yeah. It's that expectation and reality. And if it's managed, hey, I can't make it on time, I'll be there at 5:15, whatever it is. Okay, I'll adjust my expectation in my head.
That's a killer too. And I really like that you bring that up, because we're not supposed to have expectations of other people, right? Or we, to have the understanding that, oh, I see that I'm expecting you to do this or that, but really that's maybe not as healthy. So what can I do for myself in order to change this situation?
Does he know? Does she know? Oh, well, you should just know.
This.
Yeah, you should just know this. Like all husbands should be doing this.
Yeah, I think women do that a lot, right? Where we think that you're mind readers and you should know exactly what we're thinking and what we want. And
so one of my first girlfriends after my divorce. Okay, so I'm Mexican. I got married. I got divorced. So my first girlfriend, I did a few things, and in one instance, I ran across the street and I ran without her. Crazy story, right? But then she was furious on the other side. I'm like, what did I do wrong? She says, a gentleman would have da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And she was big on gentlemen and being a gentleman. And she had already ripped me apart for 2 or 3 other gentlemanly things. I'm like, crap, I never knew this. I was never taught what gentleman is, a Southern gentleman or gentleman is supposed to do. I didn't know that this is an expectation you had. I'll be more than happy to meet that. But how am I supposed to know? I guess culturally I'm supposed to know, but I'm a moron and old, young and dumb at that time.
Yeah. Well, Teevee, you have brought so much to the forefront with us today for this series, and I really appreciate your time with us today. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience about trauma and the generational trauma and healing in that regard?
I do want to say that there's generational trauma, and then there's generational IQ and generational intellectual property. Recognizing the trauma is very important because it does shape us, but so does the good stuff. I'm Mexican. I love Mexican food. I love colorful things. I love being loud. I love dancing. And that was given to me by my family. So I try to also focus on the positive because that does shape us as well. My biggest share is do the work. Even if it's for yourself, do recognize that people in your life are not happy with certain aspects of yourself. And then the consistency will tell you that it's probably a problem. Recognize it, move the ego aside, and take small steps towards improving, towards making better decisions and showing up in the world better. And I guarantee you, you will be a better parent, better son, better father, better human in everything. You will be better because you're just improving ever so slightly, 1% a day. I think they say that within a year, if you improve 1% a day, at the end of the year, you'd be like, I don't know, 300, 500% better, even if it's just a little bit. Focus on that, and your family and everyone around you will be happy, will be wanting to hang out with you more and more.
You draw in all of the people and the love and the energies that, yeah. TV, that is beautifully said. Thank you so much. I want to make sure that everyone knows where to find you. And I also want to go back to the quote that I read in the beginning that
Yes,
is
please.
yours, and that it is on your website with an article. And you mentioned the picture, which is really, really cool. So I invite everybody to go to his website, check out that picture. It's of a father turning to the flames with an extinguisher and his son, I think, or a child in the background, right? And it's just a really cool depiction of healing that generational trauma and facing those flames. Everyone, for those of you viewing and watching, it's been displayed on the screen a few times throughout this show. Go to teevee.mx. That's teevee.mx for those of you listening in. It's also in the description below, so check it out. Thank you again, Teevee, for being on the Wellness Driven Life Show for this extraordinary series. We thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you to our audience for being here, because without you, the show wouldn't be possible. So goodbye for now, and we will see you all next time.
I'm hoping this mask will provide me a safe place to hide.